What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants, as we all know, made a massive upgrade to their offense this offseason with the blockbuster trade to acquire tight end Darren Waller. But what does that mean for Daniel Bellinger, and how will he fit into the offense alongside Darren Waller, who we believe could be a wide receiver one of sorts for the New York Giants despite playing the tight end position? It's going to be really interesting to see how Brian Dable and Mike Kafka fit both of these guys in here, but we believe that they could create a real dynamic two-headed monster from the tight end position with Waller and Bellinger this upcoming season. So we're excited to go ahead, dive in, break that down in today's episode. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And if you haven't checked it out already, go back on the channel or on Apple, Spotify, wherever you are. Go listen to our Bobby Okereke exclusive interview, the New York Giants brand new linebacker that was just signed this offseason. We sat down, spoke with him for about 20 minutes. Great interview, and he shared a lot of insight on his personal life and what he's bringing to the New York Giants defense. So make sure to go check that out. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on the potential two-headed monster that the Giants are building at the tight end position?
I'm doing great, man. I'm still living off that Okereke interview. He is such a good dude. Like Anthony said, if you haven't checked it out, make sure to go do that because he was tremendous. He gave us a lot of insight into his cultural heritage and all the things that he brings to this team. You know, he believes he's an elite run stopper and also a really great coverage linebacker. And we tend to agree. You know, he's got really good athleticism, really good speed, agility. He's going to be a force of nature for this linebacker core, a lot better than what we've had over the past couple of years. And if you want to learn more about him, if you haven't watched it already, I imagine most of you have. It's sitting right there for you guys, you know, free of charge. So definitely go check that out. We appreciate that as always. And make sure to like and subscribe for more awesome content like that in the near future. But today we're talking about Daniel Bellinger and, of course, Darren Waller. Now, the Giants brought in Darren Waller for one reason and one reason only, to help supplement the loss of a wide receiver one. They don't have a wide receiver one, but when Darren Waller is healthy, he produces like one. So theoretically, looking at how they can get that type of production and value, it really depends on if Waller not only can, you know, seamlessly fit into this offensive scheme, which I think he will, because I think they're going to use him a lot like the Chiefs use Travis Kelce. But Darren Waller isn't going to be your traditional tight end for this Giants team, guys. No. He's only going to play about 35% of snaps in line, I believe. The rest of his snaps. So, and to give you guys some context, a lot of people don't know what that means. In line means hand in the dirt, on the line of scrimmage with the rest of the offensive line, and then breaking out into that tight end position. So more of a traditional inline tight end. But if you're looking at what the Giants can do with him, you can put him in the slot as a jumbo option. You can put him out wide as a boundary receiver. You can do so many dynamic and flexible things with a player like Darren Waller. He is a tremendous talent. We know this. He's 31 years old, and the Giants are only paying him like $5 million this season, guys. So they kind of took the risk here and said, okay, we can't really afford a wide receiver one. We need our first round pick to go get a guy like Deonte Banks. What can we do to get that level of production that's not going to cost us a ton of money? Darren Waller's contract is actually extremely healthy too for the Giants because he has a 3-year, $51 million deal that kicks in after the 2023 season, and the Giants have an out, so they only have to eat about $7.8 million in dead cap for 2024. They have so much money, it doesn't even matter. They have a lot of contracts that they can easily move around, and you know, you have guys like Leonard Williams' contract is expiring, Dory Jackson, so there's money to go around. That shouldn't be a big issue. But for $5 million, a $4 million cap hit this year, actually less than I thought, you're getting a guy who can produce like a Stephon Diggs. I'm pretty sure Stephon Diggs' stats in 2021, I believe, were very similar to Darren Waller's career highs back in, I think it was 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 2017. He's a tremendous receiving tight end. We know this about him. He's obviously going to be a guy his best season came in 2020. So this is only 2-3 years ago removed. You know, he has had a couple of injury-prone seasons, but ultimately a player of his nature, you know, you take the risk, you take the gamble out of $4 million cap hit. It's an easy decision for the Giants, third-round pick expenditure. Anthony, when you're looking at his receiving qualities, you're looking at what he offers this offense, to me, I mean, this might be one of the best steals of the offseason, in my opinion. To get value like that for a $4 million cap hit and a third-round pick that usually isn't going to go very far anyway. We still walk to a Jalen Hyatt, JMS, and Deonte Banks in the first 3 rounds. I mean, you add a player of Darren Waller's magnitude paired with Daniel Bellinger, which we're going to talk about in a moment here. I mean, the sky's the limit, in my opinion.
Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, listen, Waller has to stay healthy. He knows that too. In his introductory press conference, he said that's a legitimate concern for fans and the team alike. But he said that he's also been working differently this offseason in order to maintain his health. He said that he's not trying to get burnt out by the start of the season anymore and feels that in the past he's gone a bit too hard in the offseason and that's led to some of his regular season injuries. But he said that he changed his approach this offseason. He feels 100% healthy and he's working to maintain that 100% health throughout the season. So I'm really excited about that. I think that was a good quote. I mean, obviously I paraphrased it there, but just knowing that he kind of has changed his routine in the offseason, I do think that's important to note when you look at what he could bring to the team this upcoming season, and hopefully he is fully healthy. Now, if he is fully healthy, what Darren Waller brings to an offense is very rare, very unique skill set from the tight end position. Something that there's only a few tight ends in the NFL that can really make this sort of an impact in the receiving game. I mean, when you think about the best tight ends in the NFL, you don't think about the best blocking tight ends. You think about the best receiving tight ends. You think about the Travis Kelce's of the world who, yeah, he can block, but he's a much, much better receiver. George Kittle, of course, is a dominant blocker, but is also an excellent receiver. And Darren Waller, who, yeah, maybe not the best blocker, but an excellent receiver who really does fill in that wide receiver role very, very often. He lines up in the slot. He lines up out wide quite a bit as well. Last season, he actually only had 20% of his snaps in line, as Alex mentioned earlier, playing the traditional tight end role. Only 20% of his snaps with the Raiders last season, and Josh McDaniels as the new head coach, they only had him 20% in line. The other 80% of his snaps were either 60% in the slot and 20% out wide. So he actually played outside wide receiver just as much as he played tight end last year. Put that into perspective for you. Darren Waller, a dynamic receiving threat. You can't put him into a box. You have to move him around, find those matchups, and really just use all of the skills that he provides to this offense. And I think that I trust Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, to do exactly that. They're going to move him around the offense, and they're going to find ways to get a slower linebacker or a slower safety matched up on him, and Darren Waller is going to feast if he is fully healthy. Again, the health is the big factor here for Darren Waller. He hasn't been fully healthy in a few years. You take a look at it. The last time he was fully healthy, 2020, as you mentioned, Alex, he was a Pro Bowler. He had 1,100 receiving yards, almost 1,200, 9 total touchdowns. But then 2021 only played in 11 games. 2022 only played in 9 games. So only 20 games in the last 2 years. Not exactly a number to get excited by. However, if he's able to play a full 17 games this season, you know that 1,000-yard receiving mile mark is a legitimate goal for him. That is something that he can pull off in the Giants offense. And just think about what that will do for the likes of Daniel Jones and the other receivers in this offense. To have Darren Waller running across the middle of the field, attracting so much attention, will open things up on the outside, on the boundary for guys like Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton to go ahead and get open. But another thing that I do want to hit on here, I mentioned this just a second ago, he brings that elite receiving, quality to the Giants offense from the tight end spot. But he doesn't necessarily add a whole lot as a blocker, Darren Waller, that is. But who does? Daniel Bellinger. I really like what Daniel Bellinger provides as a blocker in the running game and in the passing game as well. He was pretty good in pass protection. I think that kind of went under the radar for Daniel Bellinger as a rookie. He was a pretty good pass protector as well, kind of playing that de facto extra tackle next to Evan Neal at times and chipping and helping him out quite a lot throughout his rookie season, because we know that Neal struggled, needed the help from Bellinger, and Bellinger gave him some good help. Then he also made a really solid impact in the running game. So when you're looking at that aspect of Bellinger's game, Alex, kind of Darren Waller being, the downfield receiving option from the tight end spot, how valuable is it and how important is it that Bellinger can fill in and really play that traditional inline tight end role and really make an impact as a blocker?
I mean, look, that's where Bellinger makes his money, right? He does the dirty work for this offense in terms of his blocking prowess. I actually talked to his dad a couple days ago, and he was like, keep this in mind. Daniel Bellinger's no slow-footed tight end. He's quick. He had a better 10-yard split than Darren Waller did at the combine. So kind of an interesting situation there. You're looking at a guy like Bellinger who doesn't come off as this freak athlete, but he actually has some decent speed to him. I think that he's much more bulky, and he's a much better blocker than Darren Waller, but that's kind of the two-headed monster you alluded to earlier. You have a guy that's elite at blocking. You have a guy that's elite as a receiving tight end. That combination is really nice, but Bellinger, I think where he's going to make a lot of impact as well 0 to 9 yards. You're not going to see him run down the field on seam routes. You're not going to see him push the field 20 plus yards down, 10 to 20 yards. You're going to see him 0 to 9 yards as your primary security blanket, because if you have Darren Waller running around in the secondary, Daniel Bellinger is going to be able to sit into those open spaces and just collect footballs, collect, and move the chains ultimately. So I think looking at the weaknesses and strengths, Daniel Bellinger is actually exactly what Darren Waller is bad at, and Darren Waller is exactly what Daniel Bellinger is not necessarily great at. So I don't think Bellinger will ever be this freak athletic phenom like Darren Waller, just because of the nature of their two different physiques. But I wouldn't sleep on Bellinger becoming a little bit more of a prominent pass catcher, and he has really good hands. Like, that's the one thing I wouldn't kind of sleep on with Bellinger. He had an 86% catch rate last year. He had a couple of like weird drops. I know he had that fumble late in the season. I think it was against the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken. But you're looking at this player and you're saying to yourself, look, he's a very reliable pass catcher. He had 3 touchdowns last year, one of them rushing, 2 of them receiving. He can be a very good red zone threat. They're going to be having to allocate so much attention toward Darren Waller that Daniel Bellinger is going to slide right under the system. Like, he's going to be such a nice little hidden piece because of all the attention. Linebackers, safeties, where the hell is Darren Waller at? Where the hell is this guy at all times? Where is he moving? How are they matching him up? Daniel Bellinger is going to be able to chip, help Evan Neal at right tackle, and then be able to break off into those shorter route concepts, and Daniel Jones will have the protection necessary. So I think that is actually going to help them a lot, because last year they needed Daniel Bellinger to help chip off the right tackle side a lot because of Evan Neal's struggles. But this time around, you're going to have 2 guys in Darren Waller, who's being able to get open from the tight end position, whether it's in the slot or a boundary receiver role. He's able to get open, allocate a lot of attention to him. Defenses can't let him just run around aimlessly, because Daniel Jones will capitalize. And then Daniel Bellinger can help chip and then disengage and go get open in the flats, go get open in the shorter portions of the field. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of his production come from, especially in the red zone. Those delayed routes, those delayed concepts, he's going to feast off of those. So, how important do you think it is that, Daniel Bellinger will be able to help block and help Evan Neal early in the season, help develop his confidence? Because I do think Evan Neal's going to struggle objectively. Like, he's going to have a couple of tough games early on, but I think he gets better as the season progresses. How important do you think it is to have like a great blocker like Daniel Bellinger who can help in the passing game, let alone his prowess in the running game? He's so capable in that way as well.
I think it's huge. I think we know that Neal, as a rookie, wasn't ready to be placed on an island at the right tackle position. And as you mentioned, to start his second season, he's probably still not going to be ready to be on an island all by himself. But Daniel Bellinger, that's why we have him. He's going to be there to chip, to help out in the pass protection game, and maybe even sometimes pick up some blocks and then shift them over to Neal. And I think that's really important. I think that will really take a lot of pressure off of Evan Neal, just kind of not having to do it all from that right tackle spot. He doesn't have to be all alone over there. The Giants do have a very capable tight end to put on the field and help Evan Neal out, and I think that's really important. You don't always want to put out, a jumbo tight end. You don't always want to put out a swing tackle, an extra offensive tackle on the field. You want a guy like Bellinger who can make a good block and then get open and catch a short pass. That's really the value that he adds to this offense. And I think that it's worth noting that doesn't take anything away from what Darren Waller can do with this offense, because I just think the Giants are going to run a lot of 12 personnel. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets this upcoming season. I actually found some stats on that from Warren Sharp here. Daniel Jones on early down attempts, so first and second down, from 12 personnel, 9.3 yards per attempt, 53% success rate, 85% completion percentage on 48 attempts. But from 11 personnel, meaning only 1 tight end on the field, only 6.9 yards per attempt, only a 46% success rate, and a 69% completion percentage on 295 attempts. So now that they have Darren Waller and Daniel Bellinger, expect Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka to utilize a lot more 12 personnel. Get both of those guys on the field at the same time, because the stats show it. Daniel Jones is much more comfortable throwing with 2 tight ends on the field. He's a better passer on those early downs with 2 tight ends on the field. So it's very much worth noting how important that is, not just for Darren Waller being a great player, Daniel Bellinger being a great player, but Daniel Jones being a great player and really helping him feel comfort in this offense as he heads into the second year with Brian Daboll as his head coach. So I think that's something that is really going to be a focal point in the Giants' offense this upcoming season. And not only that, it also helps with Saquon Barkley, in the running game. Having the 2 tight ends on the field, you're taking a receiver off the field and throwing another tight end on the field. Objectively, you're getting better blocking. You're getting a better blocker from having an extra tight end on the field. So that helps open things up with Saquon Barkley. And then you also throw in the fact that you have another kind of superstar level talent in this offense that needs attention. Linebackers typically have always focused all of their attention on Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Now they can't really do that. They have to focus on Darren Waller. They can't just stand there and let whichever Giants tight end run across the middle of the field, and it's not a big deal. They have Darren Waller now, so now they can't focus all of their attention on Saquon Barkley. They have to focus their attention on Waller as well. So I think that's another big part of the equation here. So Alex, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think that this new combo of Waller and Bellinger is going to help Saquon Barkley out in this offense?
I mean, it's just going to help take attention away. Like, that's the ultimate goal here is Saquon Barkley gets injured every year because the Giants overuse him. And that's objectively true, right? We continue to feed him the ball. We continue to give him 20 plus reps a game. He's the only source of offense that we've had. Aside from a couple of individual performances, like, Darius Slayton has the occasional good game. Isaiah Hodgins had a couple good games. But, Saquon Barkley was the bread and butter of our offense. He was the guy that teams stacked the box and forced us to throw the ball. Like, they basically were just like, hey, if we can stop the run, we'll beat the Giants because they cannot throw the ball because their receivers just aren't good enough, right? Now, you have a guy like Darren Waller. Darren Waller is going to command a lot of attention from defensive backs, safeties, obviously. If you're a free safety, you're freaking lasered on to Darren Waller going up the seams or on those post routes or really anywhere, those deep outs. You're looking at the strong safety position. They may be asking their strong safety to man cover Darren Waller in some occasions. If you're looking at slot corner, you're going to need the slot corner to man cover, which opens up a little bit of running game if you're going to do an outside zone, because ultimately those slot corners are expected to jump into the run game and help stop the run. Linebackers, if you have good linebackers, good coverage linebackers, they may ask them to cover Darren Waller from an inline seam. And that's kind of where you're going to see the Giants extrapolate on those mismatches. They're going to target those guys like you referenced earlier, and that's going to command a lot of attention, right? Defense, safeties, linebackers, all going to have their eyes on Darren Waller. And it's not just Darren Waller. We got speed now, my friends. We got Jalen Hyatt, who has ridiculous game speed. We have Darius Slayton coming back, really, really good speed. Paris Campbell, 4.3 speed. Bobby Okereke said to us in the interview, the guy's got legit 4.3 speed, and it's fast. He is hard to cover. So, looking at all the speed we have, the athleticism, you get Wan'Dale Robinson back eventually. Isaiah Hodgins is a great player, obviously, for us. Saquon Barkley is going to feast. And ultimately because we have so many players you got to keep an eye on at all times. Otherwise, you're going to find Hyatt, Waller, or Darius Slayton, or Paris Campbell behind your secondary with nobody there to play defense. So essentially, I think the game plan is stretch the football field, stretch that space, and create openings. That's why I think Daniel Bellinger is going to feast in the 0 to 9 yards portions of the game, of the field, because there's going to be a lot more space to work with because teams can't just condense and keep everything in front of them. They're going to have to make sure they're not getting beat from behind. And I think ultimately that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for Saquon Barkley too, because if that secondary is stretched out, those linebackers are dropping back into zone coverage, and you're having to support the passing game of the Giants substantially. Play action is going to open up. Those runs, those delayed, halfback draws are going to open up. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for Saquon Barkley to maximize his skill set. And ultimately, I want him to see reduced workload. I want Saquon Barkley to get fewer touches because that means everybody else is getting more involved. And then those touches that Saquon does get are maximized. You know what I mean? If Saquon Barkley has 15 touches and averages 8 yards per carry, and this is just, I'm just saying for numbers' sake, 8 yards per carry, it's the same thing as Saquon Barkley getting 20 touches and averaging 5 yards per carry or 6 yards per carry, because the yard differential doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If you have the total yards are the same, fewer touches, it means that you're more efficient. So I think that's what they're going to try to do with Saquon Barkley, and all these different playmakers are going to kind of aid right into that.
Yeah, and I think that really kind of highlights how this whole offense is about to open up by the fact that the Giants have such a receiving threat now added to it, with Darren Waller joining the offense here. They weren't able to find that wide receiver one this offseason, but they didn't necessarily need to because Joe Shane got really creative, sent the 100th overall pick in the draft, and got Darren Waller, a potential Pro Bowl level tight end who has 2 seasons of 1,000 receiving yards under his belt. And if he's able to do that with the Giants this upcoming season, then yeah, he's right. The Giants did not need a wide receiver one because they had Darren Waller, who basically was able to give them that kind of production. When you're looking for a wide receiver one, you're looking for a 1,000-yard receiver. Darren Waller has been a 1,000-yard receiver 2 seasons before in his career, and I do think that with Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and this Giants offense that they're building, he does have the potential to be a 1,000-yard receiver once again this upcoming season, and hopefully many more seasons to come for the New York Giants. But I think that's a good recap of how Waller's just going to open up this offense, open things up for Bellinger, open things up for Jones, and definitely open things up for Saquon Barkley as well. But let us know what you think about this acquisition and what you think of the double-headed tight end, the two-headed monster the Giants are building at this tight end spot, and how Darren Waller is going to open up this offense. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.